Welcome to the Facebook Live party for HAV Convention. We're so delighted that you could join us tonight. If you have a high schooler, let us know in the comments. Go ahead and tell us, do you have a high schooler? What grade is your high schooler? Or maybe you have a recent grad. So go ahead and pop that in the comment, because we have a giveaway tonight. If you comment or share, you'll be entered into a drawing for a free convention pass. And if you've already registered for convention, then you can give that pass to a friend or invite a new homeschooler to join you at convention.
So we are so excited that you're here with us tonight. We have some excellent guest speakers that we are looking forward to introducing to you. But first, we want to make sure that you are, like I said, commenting in there so we can see that somebody's out there. Now we're just talking to the blank screen. But we also have something that we're going to share tonight, right?
We have something to share. We do have something to share. Everybody has been waiting for the schedule of what workshops and what speakers are talking about what, and that is going to be coming out tonight for you. It'll be tomorrow on the website, but tonight you get that exclusive first peek at the schedule that has been worked on so much by our publications team behind the scenes, and it is all ready for you to look at tonight. At the end, we will put that link in for you.
And so we do have a little bit of a theme tonight. We are going to be talking about kind of our high school track, which happens on Thursday. So if you have somebody that's getting ready to launch into high school, or if you're going through high school and you're looking for more things to kind of supplement, we are so excited because we have a lot of great programs this year.
Rachel Purcell says she has a rising 8th grader. She's trying to get ahead, so he'll be taking high school level classes. That's so exciting.
we haven't reached the high school years yet, and every year Rachel's like, I'm not old enough to have that grade yet, and
he's going into 7th next year. So good job, Rachel, getting ahead of that. That's great.
So let's go ahead and introduce our guest.
We're very excited tonight.
So we have from Generation Joshua, who we're so excited to have here tonight, because Generation Joshua was supposed to join us back in 2020, and then COVID hit and all those plans got canceled, which we were so disappointed for.
Yeah.
He's here tonight, and I want to just plug real quick. The vision of Generation Joshua is to assist parents to raise up the next generation of Christian leaders and citizens equipped to positively influence the political process of today and tomorrow, which is so important because the program that we're going to be looking and talking about is iElect. But I would like to share with our audience a little bit about Daniel. So that is that one. Okay, so Daniel grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. His pro-life advocacy caused him to become active in state politics as a young homeschooler. Now in his role as communication manager for Generation Joshua, Daniel leads publications, marketing, and messaging efforts for a national nonprofit. His background in small business, grassroots politics, and ministry has prepared him to tackle multifaceted challenges and opportunities for the organizations. Welcome, Daniel. It's great to have you.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
We'd also like to introduce tonight Candace Duggar, convention favorite speaker. She is entrepreneurial queen and and also founded Bully, Broken, Redeemed, and Kids Business Academy. And you're talking on a number of things around entrepreneurial and mental health at our convention this year. So welcome, Candace.
Well, thank you. I think I'll bring my crown this year. What do you think? Bring one for you too, Rachel.
So I think to get it started, let's see a little bit more about iElect. And I think Daniel has sent us a video to get a glimpse and excitement of what we are looking forward to.
Absolutely. Do you want to jump right into that, or do you want me to kind of set it up for the audience?
Oh, go ahead and give us a setup,
okay.
And then we will roll it.
Perfect. So we are, so excited to be back at HAV. It's the convention that I grew up attending as a young homeschooler, and so it's always a blast to come back. iElect is a full-scale simulation that really goes across the whole conference. I think we started playing there for a second, but we'll have that ready for you. It's a blast because at Gen J, we believe in teaching through experience. We believe in teaching by doing. And so we invite the students to spend like a really fast forwarded version of the primary, caucus, platform building, fundraising, earning votes, having a presidential debate over a really condensed time span. And so we put together a little video that kind of shows you what it looks like on site. And then I'm happy to answer any questions or go into any other parts of that.
Sounds good. Wow, that looks amazing. And I'm kind of disappointed that I'm not in high school this year, that I can go ahead and attend.
Well, let me tell you, I have to say that iElect is kind of like the cheat code for parents who we get that pretty regularly. Like, oh, I wish you guys existed when I was in high school. And I always say iElect is the most fun for parents because at the simulation, we have to have a voter base. It can't just be the students who are the candidates and making up the gold party and the blue party. They have to have other support. And so every person who attends the convention gets to be a voter. So we have at the Gen J booth, that's going to turn into basically ballot central, and people will be able to vote for the candidate of their choice. They can make the kids really like earn their support by saying, what are you running on? What do you believe in? What do you stand for? And it's a blast. So the parents really get to be in it. The other thing is the parents and the attendees at the convention will each get fake Gen J money that the students have to raise for the costs and fees associated with the real filings with the FEC and the campaign filings and all that kind of stuff. They have to pay money to enter the debate. So it's a lot of fun for even the grown-ups.
Wow, that's so exciting. And that's something more to look forward to, that we all get to participate in this. So will there be a time that they're giving their speeches out and around and working the crowds, or?
Yeah, so there's a set time in the schedule for the program where they will actually be fundraising and mingling with the parents and attendees. We make sure that they're not interrupting exhibitors or anything like that. It's all, it's all positive. But there's also an organized debate between the two candidates. So once we have our tickets, and it's the whole process is the ground up control by the students. The gold party and the blue party currently stand for nothing. They are blank slates. And so sometimes we see these really serious platforms come together, like reflecting issues that you would see candidates run on today. And sometimes we see really interesting platforms, like we're going to make the national animal a llama. Like I've literally seen that define an election in the iElect process, because they're learning the process and then they'll kind of fill in some of the issues with their favorite ones. And sometimes llama is your favorite issue.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's, that's kind of the fun of it. It's designed to be empowering, and they get to control it from the bottom up. But once they have their 2 tickets, everyone's invited. Anybody who wants to come can come to the debate and see the 2 candidates go at it and really compare and contrast and answer tough questions and answer a few funny questions. And it's a good time.
No, that's super exciting, where our theme is freedom this year. And we also are in an election year. So
that's right.
It's something that we get to look at, and they can explore the process that as adults, we can say, wait, these are the same skills that we get to exercise our rights to affect government, and being able to be excited about that as well.
Yeah.
So that's
and
really cool.
It is. And our whole mission is to empower teens to understand that their voice matters and that in our country, they have the blessing and the responsibility as citizens to understand how the process works, which some people, they go through their whole lives not feeling like they really understand the process surrounding them, and it's all kind of mysterious and foggy. And our whole heart is to cut through all of that and say, no, this is approachable. You can understand it. In fact, you're important to this process. And so we try to leave them with that empowering sense. And that's been the track record of the program so far. So I always love the chance to do it. And yes, election year, classic year to do it. I think we're doing about 8 of these over the next few weeks around the country. And so it's always a really solid choice for an election year.
So I have a follow on. So with exploring the process and things like that, how would you say that media shapes our reality as an adult population, and how do they handle that as kids to be able to hear? And I know that it happens because my parents live in Oklahoma City, and then they were able to hear different news stories after attending the actual event. And they're like, well, that's really different than what I heard when I went to the event.
Yeah.
How do you talk about that and address that media issue and that filter that's between us and the
that's a super good question. And I wish I had like an easy answer that would say, hey, if we only changed this, it would get a lot better. And spoiler alert, I don't have that answer. But what we spent a lot of time talking about is how we can engage the process with discernment, to be as wise as serpents and as gentle as doves, and to not fall for spin or narratives, but to say, how can we actually, as best as possible in a limited world with, human beings, discern truth and what's actually going on. And so when it comes to media, I'm usually talking with students and saying just kind of the classic, if you want to hear what happened at the event last night, go hear what the people on the far left are saying about it. Go hear what the people on the far right are saying about it. Go see if you can find a few more like middle of the road, facts-based journalists, and then compare all of that and see what, you can kind of discern and pile together. Don't just take one source and say, well, whatever they say must be true. And then at the simulation, the media is, when we do iElect, we don't obviously have like a full media. We actually do that at our summer camps where we do a week-long version of this. But when we're doing a 2-day version of this, I think the media aspect there is kind of the way that messages travel through an event with a few thousand people, because it'll be really interesting when they give their pitch for like, hey, our party stands for this, 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 and this. And then it's kind of like the game of telephone, where 5 minutes later, that friend has forgotten one part and replaced it with a different part and told their mom this part. And then it's like, you hear I've seen conversations where a parent comes up and says like, Joey, I can't believe you're running on such and such. I didn't know you even cared about that. And Joey's like, I'm not. What are you talking about? and the parents like, wait a second, what? And then they say, oh yeah, no, you misunderstood. We're talking about llamas, not unicorns. And and it's like, that's that I think in an interesting way that kind of shows the spin, the what can get lost in translation depending on how many times you're talking. And thankfully, at least we don't have like overtly bad actors or untrustworthy people who are like trying to spin it in the wrong direction. And we could have a whole discussion about if who you think is trustworthy or not in the world around us in real life. But yeah, it's interesting how even then, the other thing is we have campaign ads. And so they, in a simulation, when you're with a bunch of people, we don't have like a TV channel, but we do give them, they can use their money that they fundraise to buy poster board, markers, stickers, and make these elaborate gold party, blue party. Like the artwork that comes out of these programs is phenomenal. I've kept some of it because it's so good. And, that's the thing, is we say that there's a place for everybody, whether you're the kid who wants to be upfront, pick me, I'm the leader, or you want to be the person who's like, please keep that microphone far, far away. I'm good at drawing. I'm good at slogans. I'm good at poetry, whatever. great, we have a spot for you right here. You're going to run the whole art department of this campaign, and we need like 15 signs really quick. And that's, so it's really fun to see how that plays out. So that's kind of a long answer, but that's what I would say.
No, excellent. And I wasn't expecting an easy answer, because if there was, I think we would have implemented it a long time ago.
Yeah. Exactly.
What is the general age range of children that you think this is really perfect for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Generation Joshua, primarily we're dealing with high school students. And so at a convention like this, obviously if the event host, like if HEAV has age restrictions, we'll respect those. But what we usually recommend is like 13 to 18 or 13 to 19, depending. We've had some really advanced 12-year-olds kind of beg to join and say like, hey, this is my bread and butter. I'm kind of a politics nerd. I watch C-SPAN and stuff. And could I please participate? And if they're good with it, if their parents are good with it, if the event's good with it, I've seen that work for some, but it's more reliable if you're like in the 13, 14 range and you're like, kind of in that high school zone.
That's fantastic. We love that so much. So if you are listening in and you didn't get a chance to hear at the beginning, we are super highlighting all of our wonderful teen tracks and Generation Joshua. This is Daniel on from Generation Joshua highlighting our iElect program. So if you have not had a chance to sign up for that on our registration site, please go on, sign up your teenager to participate in this incredible event. And it's going to be really great.
And so just to highlight, so we have Generation Joshua with iElect, but we also have a couple other tracks that are kind of geared to high schoolers.
Right. We've opened up our art program, our art add-on, to include high schoolers as well. And there's a photography program. There's a running camp with Jim Ryan and chess championships. So there's a lot of opportunities for our high school students at convention.
Right. So if you have somebody that has never been to convention, you might be as a high schooler, why do I want to go there? I don't really want to sit and listen to 45-minute lectures all day for several days. Don't worry. We've got you covered. We've got things for parents, that some of those ones that you've avoided, like dissection. We also have those fun things like the running camp. So if you prefer to be active, we have a lot of different choices depending on, just like Daniel was talking about highlighting in iElect. We're unique people that we have strengths and weaknesses, and there's going to be something for you. Don't feel that you have to stay home to try to, like, this isn't going to be fun or cool. No, bring your friends, because they'll could be one of the best highlights of your summer. So
I just want to add in, whatever you do, sign up early. I ran a workshop last year for entrepreneurship. It sold out super fast. And I had parents emailing me like, can we please get him? Can we please get it? I'm like, no, our room can't hold anymore. So if you're interested, don't wait and get there to sign up, because your kids will miss out on these great opportunities. Like, Daniel, how many can you guys have in your group? Is it like you can take as many as possible? I mean,
iElect can do about up to like 200 students. I don't know if that's what we have space for here at HEAV this year, but yeah, we regularly will sell out programs, and that's tough.
Don't
so yes,
wait.
Right. That's the point. Sign up now.
Yeah, my first year, my son really wanted to do a shark dissection, and we just didn't even know a convention existed until a few weeks before, and everything was sold out. But it was still a wonderful opportunity. We still went, and it was great. But don't drag your feet on that, folks. That's my biggest advice to you, is how many parents that I say, we wish we could have gotten in. We just missed the deadline, or it was already sold out. And I've heard that at every convention I've been to.
And that goes as well for the add-ons for getting in, but it also is on-site tip. Don't wait till last minute, because the rooms do fill up. Like,
oh my goodness,
a popular topic or a popular person, we turn people away often, unfortunately. So plan out the schedule, which is coming, and figure out which ones you want to be. And if you really want to make sure that you're in one, we have a volunteer opportunity for you to be a host for our speakers for that room. And you get to interact and you get to meet them, but you also get to help us and make sure that people are able to all get in, or utilizing the room and things like that. It's one of those great volunteering opportunities. Actually, where I started was I was a workshop host and being able to interact with some of our great speakers.
And Candace, you have a long list of workshops that you are giving at the convention.
I had to print it out, y'all. I really did. Actually, I was thinking about this one workshop that I did 2 years ago, entrepreneurship as part of your homeschool journey. It was one of the very last talks in the middle of graduation. I was like, who is coming to this thing? Y'all, people were behind the speaker podium. I put them in the hallway. I packed them in until the folks that he were like, no. Shut the door. No one else is getting in here. There's a fire. They're giving them the things. But the kids were so excited to be a part of it. That you guys are right. If it's something you want to get there early. I mean, I don't care as a speaker. I mean, I'm a homeschool mom. Like, we just go with the flow. There's always room for one more until they shut the doors on you. For one more. But if you do show up, they did give you the recording for that. So there is a tip, but get there early, plan it out. And for those of you that are here tonight and get a chance to look at that schedule a little bit early, you're going to get a great opportunity because they're blessing you tonight with some extra time to really plan out your schedule and be prayerful about it and take a look into folks. But yeah, I looked at my list. I have 7. I'm coming in hot this year, y'all. We are coming in ready to work, and I am very excited. Eva's my favorite, my absolute favorite. And I have spoken at everywhere from opening and presidential campaigns. I speak at Fortune 100 companies. I do training everywhere. I speak at big boards and leaderships. And my favorite are homeschool conventions. People laugh at me. I'm like, if you knew our story, you wouldn't laugh at me. Homeschooling really saved my son's life. And these are the people that I love to get in the trenches with and serve with more than anywhere else. And so he was my HEAV. I know I'm working on that, y'all. I'm sorry. HEAV was my first. I know I'm probably going to get a note. It was my very first convention. I came with my son. For those of you who came with my son, and we were in a really hard spot. And when I left, I felt so much love from just people there, from the just parents. I mean, everybody. I was carrying around a box of tissues crying everywhere. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I left and I turned in my notice of intent and I never looked back. But it was a terrifying time. It was really terrifying. And we were the parents who were going to go for one day, right? For those of you that do the free workshop, like listen, and then leave. And then we were stayed at home. So it is by far, if you are on the fence, just don't wait. It was the best money I've ever spent to just show up and be surrounded with just kindness and compassion. I know you're there for curriculum and all the things, but the camaraderie and the friendship just that were built there were essential for our family and our journey. So that's my reason to come to convention.
Yeah. And that reflects what our experience has been with HEAV as well. And just sitting there bawling and using my sleeve because I didn't bring tissues. So definitely bring your tissues. But just leaving with the support and the encouragement from people like you who have been there doing it, being successful, and it makes a huge difference. Now, if you have not already registered, you can comment and share, and you'll be entered into a drawing to receive a free convention registration. If you've already registered, you can still come and share and be entered into that drawing, and then you can share it with a friend or someone maybe who's interested or on the fence about homeschooling, so that they can come and also receive some of this support and encouragement that we've been blessed by, and you all have as well.
So I have a question for you, Candace, because this year has been really crazy for us as a speaker team, or just because we had a new convention lead for this year. So
it's fantastic.
Jessica is amazing, but she's still getting settled. So we ended up taking some of those responsibilities, because any shift in leadership, somebody has to carry the burden until the leader shows up, and then you have to be able to figure out how to give it to them gracefully so no eggs drop. So we've actually almost experienced that working at the same time of homeschooling. And it's been a common question: how do people do this? And it's something that that it's not just the stay-at-home moms that are doing it. It's
Yeah.
the parents that are working dual income and they're working.
So what they're talking about is I'm actually doing a talk. I got this on Friday. It may change, so if the schedule changes, but Friday it's working and homeschooling. How do I possibly make this work? And just to give you guys, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of background on me, I am a homeschool mom who never wanted to homeschool. Straight up, I will tell you, I had a son who was 12 years old at the time. I actually left the corporate world, a really big corporate job, to homeschool my son when I almost lost him to suicide. And we came to HEAV, and they surrounded us with what we needed. And we started homeschooling him. And we did not come, we were not really excited. We were in crisis. We were just trying to survive the next day. It was not baskets and wonderful time and co-ops. I mean, we were not there. We were just trying to make it through the night. And I started this journey. The only people I knew that homeschooled were like the people with like 11 kids in my church. And I was like, oh my gosh, last week I'm rolling around on the jet speaking on Capitol. Like, what is happening? This is me. And I just had to figure out what that was. And I knew I was always going to be somewhat working and homeschooling. And one of the things that I found was people don't really talk about it a lot. And whether you're working outside of the home or you're in ministry, or you're somebody who maybe has a special needs child and you have maybe a parent that you're caring for, that can be a full-time job on both ends with trying to fit in the education. Or you're volunteering big times like you guys are. How do you make this work? And I think some of the biggest things that we'll talk about in the workshop is so many times we focus, and I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on children, but sometimes we're focusing too much on their needs. And instead of really prioritizing and keeping it in the hierarchy of what God says, keeping our marriage straight, right? It's God, our marriage, our family. Then we get into our work. And when we get that out of cycle in any way, it really becomes a problem. And so looking at systems, whether it's outsourcing, sometimes we really need to step back for a season, not forever, and look at ways that we can reallocate, even if it's not finances, or there are other things. Can we come together with other families? What can we do to really look at this in maybe just a unique way to make it work? Because you're not going to be able to take on additional time and responsibilities and continue to still put the effort in there. Something's got to give, right? So for me, it was allocating. And as your children get older, I do think it's a little bit easier, quite frankly. In the hard parts, when I started homeschooling both of my children, and my youngest son was 9 and on the spectrum, I had to hire somebody to come in for a couple of hours, a couple of days a week, just to take care of him having special needs, so that I could make other resources, right? It was that babysitting service, or what I needed to have to make the adjustments. I know it sounds silly in a lot of ways, but it was really backing up and looking holistically at everything from meal planning to who else could I bring onto my team. My dad was amazing and local, and he came in, he ran big companies. He came in and helped teach accounting and statistics and take that off. I had another in-law who could take over some things. I really had to ask for support and help, which was not something I was comfortable with. And I then couldn't micromanage it and control it. I had to let it go. And so I think there are ways that we can step back and do that. And also sometimes it's signing a kid up online for a course, so you can just let that go and let somebody else do all the grading and the responsibilities, and taking our hands off a little bit. Because I will tell you, as I run Bully, Broken, Redeem and Kids Business Academy. I do private coaching. Both my kids have their businesses, and we homeschool. We could not get all of that done without kind of a schedule. And it's also really important, I think, especially if you're a parent who has these busy seasons, we go to a full year. We don't do everything all the time. During convention season, it would be our summer break. I would not be trying to allocate in those busy times. We would just look and adjust our schedules around knowing when we're meeting in these busy times, and we would back off and make those more of our spring breaks and our summer breaks, and kind of taking more time in our schedule would be incredibly important to us, because if you burn out, you're not there for anybody. And the thing that I find the hardest is keeping the marriage at the top. And that is something that I tell people, if you come and listen, you will hear I did all this wrong. I about blew up my marriage. I had a kid that was a mess. I did it all wrong. That's why I can come back and tell you, if I could back up what I wish I would have known, as I was very holistic in it. And I was thankful that we took the time early to notice it and back up and make the changes quickly. It's when you just keep going day after day after day and not acknowledging it, that it's a problem. And so, sort of like in everything else, we just have to back up and start over again sometimes.
Yeah. I heard you say letting go, and we've been talking about letting go. And from the time that they're holding your hands and taking those first steps, and you have to let them go so they can walk, and peering on into those teen years and thinking about how you have to let go even more, but trying to be there and available so they don't crack their head open, helping them to experience failure, but you have that safety net. And what are some experienced guidelines that you would say,
Well, I think I'm also doing a talk, The Truth About Mental Health in Our Youth Today. So if you come to that one, you'll probably get a little more of this kind of wisdom. The truth is, many of us are over-parenting, and we have a very anxious generation of children because they haven't been allowed to really have those falls. Sometimes we step in way too soon to fix it for them, and then they feel like they can't. And our goal isn't to have these happy kids all the time. We kind of run around like we're supposed to have these happy, well, I want my kids to be happy, but a little bit of grumpy is okay, because that's just not life. I don't expect, part of growing up is just learning to get in the grit and have the hard time and figure it out anyway. And so when parents are trying to do too many things for them, most of the time when I'm coaching parents and we're talking about it, I'm like, hey, mama, if you're this tired, who's doing the laundry and the dishes and the things around the house? If it's all on your to-do list, then we're not really doing a great job in letting many of those things be moved off of our task list into running a whole household. And so my suggestion, and it's so hard, you have no idea how many nights I have just sat there praying, Lord, I am just this, you love this child more than I do. I know you do. I am trusting you. I am trusting you. I am trusting you. He can do this. I am just going to leave it. And I make the best choices that I can as a parent. And it is hard to let go. But I also have a child on the spectrum. And for those of you who've worked with kids on the spectrum, their first answer to anything is almost always no. It's always no, because they don't have a reference for what that could look like. Trying a new thing, they're going to tell you no. It's always no. So a lot of times I look like the mean mom pushing my kid to try something. And people are like, oh my gosh, you're so mean. I'm like, if I don't push them during this time of growth, while his mind is still able to really encompass these things, I'm just going to have an adult who's not willing to take risk. And we are becoming a generation of folks who are scared to stand up, to have courage, to stand in our convictions. And so I think as parents, when we talk about taking our hands off the wheel, it's for so much more. And when we do that, we allow them to find their God-given natural talents. And then they can really take those and share them with the world. But it is hard because they're going to hurt. And I want my kids to have a lot of failure at home, because it's the only way I can really help kind of guide them along again, right? Put them back together while they're still a little bit in the nest, so they're not falling apart in the real world.
So going back to your last one, that importance of marriage and family, and that's something that we believe very strongly here at HAV, and that's why we offer with our friends at Family Life
the Art of Marriage program on Thursday to help with those marriage relationships and be working through some of those, because it is, if your foundation isn't solid, then everything else is going to be affected. Yeah.
And the kids know it. They know
Right.
it. Even if it's not in front of them, they understand that there's just this current is just not running right in the house. And we want to raise our kids. I'm trying to raise sons that have a very good reflection of how they're going to treat their wives and how they should expect their wives to treat them. And so I'm trying to be very careful, especially as I'm growing young men into this next thing, to what does that look like in true leadership in our family, and how does a wife honor you, and how is a very strong woman. Y'all, I'm a very strong, independent woman. God has worked on me so far. Y'all don't even know. I went out and bought our first house you've ever heard the story, my husband and I were married. I was in real estate. I went out and bought our first house and didn't tell my husband. Not even kidding. I literally did it. And my mom's like, what have you done? And I'm like,
we needed a house, Mom.
It's a good deal. I'm in the business. I bought the house. The Lord has worked on me, y'all, a lot in the last 30 years. The Lord has done so much. But those first couple of years were rocky. They were rocky. So I'm telling you, I've come a long way. I have come a very long way.
I think that's at every stage, that if we don't watch it, that I was even just talking to my mom today that, hey, you guys are just now empty nesters, and it's so easy to fill everything up with things again and being good people. But if you don't schedule that time to be a couple again, you're going to keep filling it up and you're going to miss out. And I think that at every stage, I have to step back and say, are we doing that piece? Because if you're with the babies, obviously nobody's sleeping. But if you're teens, you're going to all the activities. Like at every stage, if we don't.
We're trying that now because I have one that's moving out and one he's finally old. I know, be it on this, but he's finally enough we can leave him a little bit for a while. And it's been the first time that we've been able to really even step away for a couple hours without it being a whole thing. Right. And so it's been, our lives are surrounded by that. And as we're coming into a new season, it's definitely an adjustment. And so I'm there with you. It's an adjustment. And you have to have that constantly learning and growing.
Yeah. I really appreciate that you brought up about mental health and making sure that the whole person is being addressed and guided and grown. And I know there was a comment up here. Lori said that that's the reason why they homeschooled is because for mental health reasons.
Yeah. I have met, have been very fortunate to be able to speak at conferences across the country, and more I am finding parents coming to me and saying we're homeschooling. As you know, I started because of bullying, but for mental health, for anxiety, for just all of these reasons for our children. And not only are they needing it for them, but they're seeing it in other siblings and in their families. And my philosophy, everything I do is mental health before math, character before curriculum, and relationships before reading. Because if we don't have children who have a foundation and understand how to manage their mental health for life, and if they don't have a strong character development and they don't know how to manage relationships, those are the kids that I get with a 4.0 back at home whose parents are calling me for more career and adult coaching, right? They've got to be able to manage relationships and have that strong character development. And really managing your mental health isn't always about just, that's something we'll talk about in the workshop. It's how do we help our children and our families? And really, what does that look like? Just as we care about other parts of our body, how are we doing it so that we have an approach that just keeps us mentally well? We're not necessarily talking about when there's a diagnosis, but overall mental health for your family.
And that's something, so my day job is in the U.S. Navy. So that's something that we are, even in the military, is something, one of our big concerns right now is how to create this mindset of toughness, because, and there's all these different aspects that you were just talking about. And it's something, even in the military, we're having to readdress and go back to that, all that spiritual component, that physical component, that emotional component. All these things are different aspects, and you can survive for a little bit and you can push through to get things done. But if you stay in that zone too long, even if you're healthy, you're not going to be if you stay pushed to the edge too long. So I think,
and we will talk about a little bit in that, even in screen addiction, and what does social media addiction and screen addiction look like, and how does it impact mental health in our youth? And so we'll talk about that, because I know I get a lot of questions from families who homeschool. I feel like they're at the extreme. We're never giving them a screen. And so there's that. We get a lot of different questions in that. And so we'll talk about that in mental health and how that can impact our youth, especially if they start dealing with screen addiction.
Thank you so
Which I
much
like.
for your heart and your experience and your expertise and your vision, Daniel and Candace. We really love having you guys tonight and to hear more about what you're excited to bring in June for us and what we're excited to share for all of our Virginia families. If you have not registered yet, go on and register. In just a few minutes, we're going to release a link to everyone watching for our newly released schedule, just to you, free today. And then tomorrow it will be on our
Still free.
website. It'll still be free. The schedule will be, yes. And if you would like a free convention pass, definitely but comment and share to be entered into the drawing.
So no, it's been fantastic having this conversation, and it's so excited to be able to talk to you both in person when we get there in June, because it is exciting, and one of those things that is almost like that professional development to get us ready for the next year.
Absolutely.
Totally.
It is a great time for planning and just taking the time aside. As a parent, as I started coming to conventions, I will still go to a convention, even though I speak at them, for professional development, and to take my day away as time, whether I'm doing one online or in person, to schedule the next year, to write my goals for my children. What do I want them to do? What do we want as a family? It's the time that I really take for planning. And then we come together as a family and make decisions. It is a huge investment that you put into yourself to just take that time.
And then just being able to get a hold of actual physical copy of curriculum to know what it looks like. Like you read, there's all this stuff online and you just don't know. And so you're able to walk the exhibit halls and be able to talk to people and really understand the heart behind a lot of the curriculum, because they have a heart for families just like you. And so we also want to thank our sponsors to make sure that we really care about our sponsors, because they really care about you, and they've cared so much that we're able to keep our costs low because of all the sponsorships on the backside and the partners that we have with many of the different ministries.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you in June.
Thank you guys so much for having this. Can't wait.
Bye-bye. Thank you.